All right, hey Quants, I just ended up putting out quite a large video on the different Gen 3 editors that I've been using, and it was, as I mentioned, quite a long video, and so I wanted to touch on a couple of aspects that I missed, and also now that I'm back at home, and when I say home, I'm back at Linux, and I just feel a little bit more comfortable here, and I wanted to highlight just a few things that I think are better here than I noticed on Mac. And so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I have that really long video, which I will link at the end of the video, at the end of this video. So if you want to skip to that video, you can catch it at the end screen. But there was an important aspect that I mentioned in my first attempt at making that video that got botched, and I wanted to make sure that I did not forget to mention it in this second video, which I did. And so I wanted to come back and just do a real quick video. This is just be short. And so I've touched on the aspects of cursor and being able to select the model. I didn't go into that with Codex, but in the context of Codex, my understanding is that you're only able to pick OpenAI models. That might actually not be the case. And so I'll probably comment on one of my other videos after I have time to go back to a Mac. Just take a quick pick. I'm not going to stick on Mac because it's just not my preference. But I did go into detail about being able to select the different models as I'm highlighting here in cursor. And it probably was missed completely that you could pick different models in T3 code. And so that's another aspect that I think is super important when you're working with different models, is to not, if you're just getting started, just pick one. I mean, somebody is going to tell you Claude is better. Somebody's going to tell you GPT is better. It doesn't, I mean, just pick one. And so get used to it, start working with it. And then as you gain experience and you start using other models just naturally, you will start to gain an appreciation for what each model is better at and when you might choose one model over another. But because I did not point that out in the past, I wanted to highlight that here in T3 code. Right here in T3 code, what you'll see is only the GPT models, and that is not your only option. However, once you start a chat, you will be locked into a specific model. I think that is something unique in Cursor. You are able to change your model in the same chat. And so I'm not quite sure why that's not possible here in T3 code. Theo might have mentioned it somewhere. It potentially has something to do with the prior context. If you were to start this conversation, you're going to end up feeding, and you switch models, you're going to end up needing to feed that prior context to the new model, or summarize it or compact it and send it to the new model, likely, so that you get a valid response. And so, however, what I wanted to highlight here is if I do start a new chat, I will have the ability to pick any model that I currently have hooked up. And it works a little bit different in T3 code than it does in some of the other editors. So if you're using, again, I'll come back to Codex and provide commentary later if there is something beyond being able to just pick OpenAI or GPT models. If that's the case, then I'm probably not going to come back and mention anything because that's just my current assumption, which could be false. But in the context of Cursor, for example, you get access to certain limits for each model. And if you pay your $20 subscription, or I don't know if it's $100 now, I think it used to be $60 for a higher tier subscription, you'll get more access to each of those models. But one of the benefits of that is that you pay for that access, and then you have access to whatever models they provide in the picker. And so Composer is their model. And if you look at the metrics, it's quite good. And as a default, it's probably fine. I've seen it actually do better than GPT-5.5 and Opus in certain cases. You also have access to your flagship models, which are going to be Gemini, Gemini. Probably not Gemini, unless you're doing image work. In the context of image work, I do think it's flagship. But for other stuff, probably not. But GPT or Opus And then also you can select this all models option, which is going to, in their editor, show you other models that you can enable. By default, they're going to disable older ones because people just generally aren't going to use those. And then you can also do the view all models. And so they have Kimi 2.5, GLM 2.5. I'm going to enable that now that I see that because I've heard that it's been pretty good. So I kind of want to test that one out. And then you also have the ability to add a custom model or provide API keys for other models. And so as an example, if you were using OpenRouter, you could probably connect other models through here. So I'm not going to go any farther in that, but I just wanted to come back to T3 code and mention that T3 code is the only other editor that gives you access to cursor models. And so if you like the composer model, you can use their CLI. And so their CLI is called agent or agents. I think it's agent. That's the standard command that you would have, which is kind of a cool name, I think, considering what you're doing. And the way that T3 code works is it wraps around the CLIs that you have installed. So as an example, if you have Claude Code installed or Codex installed or the Cursor Agent CLI installed, you will then have access to each of those models through T3 code. And so you get access beyond models just besides what you might have if you're using Codex. Again, I'll correct that if it's wrong in the future. Or if you're using the Claude, I know they have a desktop application. I haven't used it yet, but or their their terminal UI applications. And so I think that's fairly novel. The way that they've done it, I don't know the exact details. Theo has explained a little bit of it on some of his YouTube videos. I think he's wrapping it around and using that Claude-P command or Codex-P command so that he can invoke it without violating any of the user agreements and still allow you to use your subscriptions for these models while providing you with a better UI. And so again, I kind of went into detail about why I favor using T3 code. This is another reason I prefer using T3 code is I can use in Cursor, for example, I can't use Claude with my OAuth subscription to get the amount of limits that I might have. Like with Codex, I have a higher tier subscription. And so I would get a lot more use out of being able to just call Codex directly, but I don't get that level of access through Cursor, although you do get some access. So it's still beneficial. And I haven't compared what you would get if you're paying for their higher tier models. They do give you more access to it, but considering they're paying API pricing, regardless, I'm sure you're not going to get quite as much as what you would through your subscription models. Something else that I will note here is they also have things that I don't really see. I thought I saw Grok available in Cursor at some point. Yeah, it looks like Grok build is still there. So they still have Grok available. I haven't had luck with coding with Grok, and so not something I played with, but point is you have it, open code, Gemini models. These are all coming soon, right? And so I expect that they'll have some wrappers around these that you can use, and then they'll be available. And I just wanted to make sure that I pointed that out because I didn't point it out in my previous video. I intended to, and I just kind of just missed it when I was going through things. And I think it's an important aspect of T3 code to look at and any editor in general, because model lock-in is a real thing, and you don't want to build an entire business on a single model that could basically be pulled out from under you for either for government reasons or for business reasons. If you end up building something that Anthropic or OpenAI doesn't like and they just decide to ban you and not let you use their models anymore, then you're kind of stuck. And so being able to flip between those is important. And I think it's also important to not blow up, to be in a position where you don't blow up your entire workflow because you have to switch models. And so that's another reason that I think something like T3 code or even Cursor is a good option for that. So unfortunately, in the last video, as I mentioned, Cursor did not have a good showing at the very end, but before it exploded on the Mac, I think it did quite well. And as I mentioned, it has a comparable set of features as Codex. So and it's been around longer, which also is why I was kind of surprised that it just kind of blew up at the end there. I haven't seen that before. So we'll leave it there. Just as a follow-up for the past video, I'll link the past video and the end video in the at the end video here, so you can catch that. If you didn't see it and you want to see it, watch it in 2x speed. It's 2 hours long. It's a monster recording, and there's a lot of stuff in there. So you know, I wouldn't expect anybody to necessarily sit through that whole thing in one sitting. Maybe you want to break it up a little bit, but hopefully this provides a little bit more detail on top of that. And oh, one other thing, I'm just going to point this out because I missed mentioning it, and I don't want to forget that. I did mention in the 2-hour stream or the 2-hour video that on Linux things look a little bit different, and I just want to kind of point that out. If you look at Click Alchemy, you can see when I kicked off different when I kicked off agents in the cloud version or on the internet version. When I launch my cursor application here, I mentioned you get this little cloud icon, and that's what I see here. And so these are kind of separated where I have, where is Click Alchemy up here? Click Alchemy right here. And so locally it's a folder, and then remotely it was a cloud icon. So I don't know if I'd prefer to see that when you expand it, then you actually see cloud icons here or folder icons. I might prefer something like that so they're not separated, but I just wanted to mention that it is a little bit different on the Linux systems, and so that is what it is. But we'll leave it there. Hope everyone got some good information out of this, and hopefully you get a chance to check out that 2-hour stream and provide some comments on that one in particular, because there was a ton of detail there. And we will call it for today. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace, Quants.